Chakshurumilitam tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Paradaram Sri Gurum Vaishnavascha Sri Rupam Sagar Jatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitantam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sagana Lalita Sri Vishwakanvitanscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Vivettate Gopeshwara Vigajanta Radha Kanta Namastute Jaitam Sarato Pango Namanato Tiyuti Nansarvasya Padambojo Radha Mananamohana Divya Bindarana Kalpadamara Saimaratna Varasamvastu Srimad Radha Shila Govinda Deva Krishna Livisevimasmrani Shimam Rasarasaram Devam Sevadagata Stita Kasandana Saivopi Gopinataya Shvestana Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sade Devi Pranamani Haripriya Govinda Nandini Radha Govinda Mohini Govinda Sarvasya Sarvakanta Shironi Tavai Vasmi Najimani Tavamina Iti Vikrana Devi Tvannayaman Charan Kalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhu Mevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. First of all, I would like to offer my humble obeisances and to our beloved Gurudev Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Maharaj and to Srila Bhaktivedanta Vaman Maharaj, Param Gurudev Srila Bhakti Vigyan Keshav Maharaj, Srila Isi Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Prabhupada, Srila Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur Srila Prabhupada, and the Rupa Vaishnavas in our Guru Parampara, the 6 Goswamis, Sri Ramananda Rai, Sri Damodar Haridas Thakur, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates, and Radha Krishna Dubhi and their eternal associates, and all the Vaishnavas and Vaishnavas assembled here. So we continue trying to do some explanation about the process of devotional service. Archan, one of the important limbs of devotional service, and yesterday we have explained about Panchanga Puja, the 5 limbs of the process of puja, of worship of the Lord. So we have explained Abhigaman, approaching the deities in the temple, Upadan, collecting the items to be used in the worship of the Lord, yoga, becoming established on the transcendental platform, and Diksha to some extent, the various services from morning till evening. And now the 5th is known as Svadhyaya, cultivation of devotional service. It comes from the word Adhyaya, to study the scriptures specifically. One's own cultivation of devotional service. That is an important part to the deity worship becoming successful. So in that is included the studying and hearing of the Shastras, performing sadhana bhakti, sadachar, and preaching also, as explained before. Preaching is an important aspect of the brahmanas, the quality of a brahmana, and even included in that is also serving the Vaishnavas, respecting the prasadam, receiving guests, serving Tulsi Devi, serving the Holy Dham. That comes all in this category of Swadhyaya. So, the devotees, and of course, usually as brahmanas, those who have received second initiation, it is understood that have been under the guidance of the spiritual master or the representative of the spiritual master, and are properly performing devotional service, and then they are qualified to worship the deities in the temple. And similarly, in home worship, usually the spiritual master is seeing the qualification of the devotees, and then he will allow them to worship the deities. And so usually it is expected that when we start to worship the deities, even at home, with the permission, with the blessings of the spiritual master. So it is expected that they know how to perform bhajan also properly, that they are studying regularly the scriptures, doing sadhana bhakti, and then they may properly worship the deities. But still it is mentioned so that one is mindful of that, because many times, especially for householders, sometimes they become very busy, as Prabhuji was mentioning also, that it is impossible to every day fully worship the Lord, and then maybe sometimes not able to study the scriptures, or the hearing is neglected. But one should try to see that it doesn't become too much neglected, so that the consciousness is always proper, the bhav is there, so we may properly worship the Lord and not commit any offense towards the deities. We will discuss more also about different kinds of offenses. Also it is mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam that there are actually different forms of the Lord. Anyone has any idea how many forms are there of the Lord, as explained in the Srimad Bhagavatam by Krishna to Uddhav? Any idea?
64.
Forms of the Lord. How many forms of the Lord are there?
You mean materials?
Yes.
5?
5?
33 million?
Was there? 8 forms. 8 forms of the Lord.
You mean the deity?
Yeah, the deity. Yeah, deity form of the Lord.
Material.
The materials. Different materials, yeah, to specify.
Could you tell? Could you tell what they are?
Yes. So that is mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam 11 canto, 11 canto, 27 chapter, verse number 12. So Shaili, the stone, made of stone, Darumai, made of wood like Jagannath or the name deities of Bonitai, and then Lohi, made of metal, different metals, either Panchadhatu or Ashtadhatu, 5 kinds of metals or 8 kinds of metals. Like sometimes they will have they have brass, and then they have copper, they have bell metal, zinc, and they will have sometimes silver, some silver and gold. And so this way the metals are, the deities are made of different metals, lohi. And then lepya, made out of clay or cow dung, gobar. And then lekya, painted, chitra, paintings of the deities. And then saikari, that is made with sand. And manimai, made with jewels. And the 8 is known as manumai, in the mind. Manumai. Like the advanced devotees, the descriptions are there also, that by hearing about the Lord, reading about the Lord, in the mind, they will see the form of the Lord, and then they will worship that form of the Lord. That is accepted also.
Did you say what one made of jewels?
Yes, made of jewels.
I've never seen any deity made of jewels.
Money?
Yes, that is known as money mine, made of jewel. You can see in Vrindavan some of the shopkeepers they may have, made of some diamonds sometimes, but it is rare. It is rare. But it is mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Even besides that, For example, if one is worshipping the Lord during the yagyas, sacrifices, the Lord is called in a pot, in a kalash, and then worship there. And one more is there, the yantra. They have on a metal plate, they have some design according to Shastra also, and then they will worship the Lord also there. So all of them are, of course, bona fide under the direction of the spiritual master. We may worship these different forms of the Lord, but most beneficial for the conditioned souls is the Archanigraha made with, which we can see very nicely made of marble. Of course, marble is considered similar to stone and made of wood, and so this form is most easy to worship, and the exchange is there when we see the beautiful form of the deities in the temple. Also other forms are there, the Govardhan Shilas are there, or Shaligram Shila, which can also be worshipped, and the Shaligram Shila, different characteristics are there of the Shilas, and they may be worshipped according to the characteristics. There's the Shringa Shila, or the Vamana Shila there, or the Shilas, Matsya Kurma. But it is mentioned in the scriptures, Hanumanti will ask, that we may use any Shila and worship in any form. So some devotees will worship even in the temples as Krishna, Swami Bhagavan Sri Krishna, or even as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Govardhan Shilas, they are also worshipped. Mostly in our Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, we worship Giriraj as Haridasya Varya, the best of the servants of Hari as a devotee. But some devotees, they will use they will worship the Giriraj Shila as Krishna also, or even sometimes as Balram or Srimati Radharani, or as Mahaprabhu. Even one time, I remember quite a few devotees from ISKCON, they were going to see Gurudev and they would worship Giriraj as Krishna. And then, so then Gurudev told them that it is most beneficial if you worship Giriraj as a devotee, as Haridasya Varya, because he has Krishna Prem, so he can give Krishna Prem. So they all changed from worshipping Giriraj as Krishna to Govardhan as a devotee. And I was worshipping also Giriraj since many, many years as Radha and Krishna. But that one also I have a Govardhan also as Haridasya Varya. And then I was really a little bit disturbed. And I was thinking, how I can change from worshipping as Krishna to a devotee? And then I asked Gurudev, so we cannot worship Giriraj as Krishna? Then he said, no, you can worship him also as Krishna. But it is recommended for the sadhakas in order to get Krishna Prem to worship Giriraj as devotee. But A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Shiva Prabhupada in the Krishna book, there in the chapter relating to the worship of Giriraj, the chapter of lifting Govardhan hill, there he has explained that the devotees are taking the pebbles and stones from Govardhan and worshipping just like Krishna in the temple. So they be done also.
This is also that Mahaprabhu instructed Raghunath Das Goswami.
Yes, also Raghunath Das, he instructed Raghunath Goswami and he told him that Govardhan is no different from Prajendanandan Krishna, and you should worship him as such, and then you should offer a Gunjamala which represents Srimati Radharani. And then he advised also further Sanat Damodar how to worship this Giriraj Shila.
What kind of mala?
The Gunjamala. These are small berries. You can find them in northern India and Raj. They are of reddish and whitish color. They make a garland of that and then they will offer to Krishna.
Why is that specifically representing Radhika?
Why is it specifically Yes.
Or especially this berries.
Yeah, that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told Raghunath Das Goswami. Besides that, I have not heard anything. Yeah, so we accept that. So,
Can we ask questions?
yes.
You mentioned that in the previous slide,
This one?
the one before that. Yeah. Studying and hearing the Shastras, performing sadhana bhakti sadhana teachings. These four activities are required for someone who does worship.
So if, Prajna Prabhu is asking if these activities are required for those who are worshipping the deities. Yes, definitely. That if one wants to worship the deities, he has to perform sadhana bhakti. He has to chant the holy names, he has to follow the instructions of the spiritual master, and so he has to study and hear the Shastra. That is required, but Saracha, proper behavior has to be there according to the instructions of the spiritual master, the scriptures, following the different rules and regulations. And usually as Brahmanas, so Vaishnavas, whatever we have heard, so that we will tell others, and that will help us to become more absorbed in Krishna consciousness. But of course preaching is not just that we go out and we tell others or we distribute books, but even if you help those who are preaching, so then you are taking part in the preaching. If you are serving the spiritual master, the pure devotee who is engaged in preaching, and if you have his blessings to worship the deities, then that is actually sufficient. It's not that you have to go out. For example, one householder is there and he's doing some worship, and then he will ask sometimes his wife to worship, and she has to take care of the house and 3 kids maybe, then she may not be able to go out and preach also at the same time. But she's supporting her husband, who is supporting the spiritual master. And so, but the consciousness should be there that we are helping the preaching movement. Yeah, inviting guests and having program also in the house. Yes. Yes.
So in this regard, what is the meaning of performing sadhana bhakti?
Performing sadhana bhakti. What is the meaning of that? Performing sadhana bhakti? Yeah. So sadhana bhakti, as we know, means to engage in activities, engaging the senses in the service of the Lord, with the purpose, as we know from the nectar of devotion, to come to the platform of ultimately of bhava bhakti. And as we know that sadhana bhakti is divided in two, one is Vaidhi bhakti following the rules and regulations, and the second part is known as Raganuga bhakti, that is following the eternal associates of the Lord who have anurag for Krishna. The pure devotees, the Nityasiddha Parikar of the Lord. And especially in our sampradaya, we are aspiring, as Mahaprabhu came to establish the Yuga Dharma, and the chanting of the holy names, but especially also with Braj Bhav, and then especially Unadujjala Ras. So, Anarpita Charim Charikaya Navatana Hello Sanarpatama Unadujjala Rasam Sadakti Shriyam. So he has come to give this Braj Bhakti, but specifically the Gopi Bhav, or even more than that, the Manjari Bhav. And so, under the guidance of the spiritual master, the pure devotee, so we try to enter, while performing Vaidhi sadhana bhakti, we try to enter into Raganuga bhakti under the guidance of the spiritual master, and then with the aim to come to the platform of Bhav bhakti, so that we may then properly actually serve them Krishna, and even in this method Yacha Vigraha. If all the schools of Gaudiya Vaishnavism really understand this, they're supposed to understand. Maybe not everybody is understanding clearly that is there. Definitely, I mean, even as we know, even in Eastern society, not everybody is aware of that. But so we have to try to present the truth and try to encourage them as much as we can, as much as possible.
I remember our Guru Maharaj always telling, once you start worshipping the deity, he becomes like one of your family members.
Yes, if you worship the deity, he's becoming your family member. That is true, yes, of course.
We have to care for them.
Yes.
They are our children.
Yes, yes,
So there must be an interest in bhakti.
yes, of course, yes.
There is no way to properly worship.
Yes.
My next question, you mentioned that we are engaged in deity worship on the order of the spiritual master or on the order of the representative of the spiritual master.
Yes,
How do we understand the representative of the spiritual master?
yes, how we understand. So the question is, I mentioned that we worship in the service of the Lord under the, yes, by the order of the spiritual master or the representative of the spiritual master. So for example, ultimately it is always by the mercy of the spiritual master that we engage in the worship of the Lord. But now, for example, sometimes some devotees, they may get initiated by the spiritual master, as we know, and then they are staying at the temple, and the spiritual master may not be there. But then the representative of the spiritual master, for example, the temple president, he will tell the second initiated devotee, now you please engage in the service of the Lord. And so the president of the temple is a representative of the spiritual master in that sense.
How can that be?
How that can be?
But the spiritual master is the relationship that we have with, through him we obtain the shelter of Krishna.
Through the spiritual master we obtain the shelter of Krishna.
If someone becomes the
Yes.
representative, isn't that some type of ritual or some type of improper? I mean, anyone who should be the representative of the spiritual master should be.
He should be having the same mood as the spiritual master. Yes. So he's asking how the president can be the representative. Well, usually the spiritual master, so he's seeing that the person is qualified, and then he will ask him to take care of the temple. Just like, for example, in Mathura, Premananda Prabhu was there, and so I think he's quite qualified, and then he may engage in devotees in the service of the Lord. And it's not that the spiritual master is that, even especially if he has many disciples, then it is not always the case that he will directly tell, you will engage in the worship of the Lord, but he's delegating the power to his Satshishya. There may be Diksha or Shiksha disciples, like Premananda Prabhu, or even, for example, other devotees were there, and Sanatana Gaurimat, Rasananda Prabhu was there in charge. So the new devotees who were coming, they were initiated by Gurudev, and then they were engaged in the service of the Lord. And I don't think so that Gurudev, he was aware of all the devotees who were coming new and then who were initiated, and then telling everyone, now you engage in the service of the Lord. But it was delegated.
Like cooking, cleaning.
Even cooking and cleaning, yes, yes. And even we should try to understand that not only going on the altar and worshipping the deities is deity worship. Even if you just go to the temple and you take darshan of the Lord, you're doing deity worship. That is deity worship. Even you're entering into the temple, you are supposed to ring the bell, or you have to supposed to knock on the door. That is part of deity worship. That is one of the angas of devotional service. Then you offer obeisances to the deities, and you glorify the Lord in the temple. That is part of deity worship also.
But isn't it more easy to understand that under the guidance of the spiritual master?
Under the guidance of the spiritual master, yes. Ultimately, even the representative of the spiritual master is under the guidance of the spiritual master, and everyone then is under the guidance.
Right. Well, the spiritual master says you serve there under the guidance of this devotee or
Yes,
devotee.
yes,
Like that.
like that, yes.
So everything is done under the
It
guidance.
is everything is under the guidance of the Spirit Master. That is understood. Even if you say the representative, it is understood. Is doing under the guidance of the Spirit Master. Like Premananda Prabhu, Rasananda Prabhu is now Bhaktivedanta Shiva Maharaj. So they were fully surrendered to Gurudev, and then they were empowered. They were empowered. And now, Gurudev to some extent, of course, is now, as we say, Nitya Pravishta Prakat, but he's still here. So, but still we need the guidance of those who are present. Well, the Gurudev is here, is in our heart. But if you are not yet so qualified, we need the guidance of those who are very close and surrender to Gurudev to then properly then advance further. And even together with the other devotees, because alone we don't have the strength if you are not pure. If you are pure, then you can perceive Gurudev in the heart. You can perceive the previous acharyas, you can perceive Mahaprabhu. But if you are not yet so pure, you need the association of those who are close to Gurudev, those who are more pure, and then you are properly able to progress. Is that right?
Just a very quick question.
I was just wondering, because it's terminology,
Yes.
how far you want to stretch this.
Yeah, yes.
Because who is empowered, who is not empowered. Everyone can say, I'm initiated by my Gurudev, so
Right.
I'm empowered.
Yes.
To do what? Yeah. I can give mantra, I can give everything.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So this is important.
Yeah, that is important. That is a good point. Yes. Yes. So different kinds of empowerments are there. But yeah, your point is correct that those who are representatives of the Spirit Master. So even when Gurudev was present, at that time, out of etiquette, nobody is initiating or giving mantra. And I think one time Bhan Maharaj was giving, and then something, maybe Harinam or something, I heard, I don't know if it is true, and then Gurudev questioned him, why are you giving? So,
No, we question.
was that?
We question.
How you questioned him?
Then Gurudev, he said that we should go on.
We should go on with him.
Yeah. And then we said, that will not. Then we said, I will not. And then Gurudev became very happy.
Oh,
Then Gurudev what?
Became very happy.
he became very happy with Gurudev.
That he wasn't gonna.
That he wasn't putting in. What's that?
We cannot.
Oh yeah, okay, so then I was explaining about how one time Bhan Maharaj was starting giving mantra, and there was some objection. Rajanar was saying he was also there, and somebody was objecting, and first Gurudev was saying that he may continue, but then the Rajanath and the other devotees felt that it is better he will not continue, and then Maharaj, Bhan Maharaj himself, he also agreed not to continue. Was that right?
When Srila Gurudev was present, many times sannyasis, they would travel and preach everywhere. And then they would ask Srila Gurudev to initiate the devotees by telephone. And Gurudev said, no, you should yourself give initiation. You are qualified. And then the sannyasis would say, no, we are not qualified. In your presence, we don't want to give initiation. But some of them thought, oh, Gurudev says we are qualified, so we should do. Moreover, Srila Gurudev was Diksha Guru for many. And the Diksha Guru was Srila Bhaktivedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj. So Srila Bhaktivedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj, he would automatically have a special place in their heart. And he would tell them in the future, you will also be spiritual master. When Srila Vaman Maharaj entered Aprakat, then some of the devotees thought, now I should begin. Especially because Gurudev had very special quality. He never wanted to give initiation. He never wanted followers. He wanted to do his bhajan, not be disturbed. But when you do bhajan, you become very attractive. And also Gurudev, he wants to help always anyone who comes to him. So there were some areas where we had to take care of. I wouldn't say it was difficult, but it was a beautiful experience. Because after explaining to the devotees who were preaching that if in the presence of Gurudev you give something which he has in abundance and you have only little, why not offer
Yes.
to that personality who has everything in abundance, who can give in a second, but you cannot give in whole lifetime. Then they agreed.
Yes.
Not all.
So I think we should continue with the subject here. So the Supachar Puja, so that is the main worship of the deity in the temple. And so the different, here is a chart, the 16 basic upachars are there. It is in 3 sections, 3 parts, 16 you can see clearly. You can see, everyone can see? Then we can come a little forward, those who are behind. We can make it
bigger?
You can make bigger. So you come a little bit forward and I will explain also. So first comes the reception of the Lord. So first you offer asan, a sitting place. Or the asan doesn't refer only to a sitting place, but it means also the place where the Lord is being worshipped. So asan is there. And then after the second, swagat, that means welcome of the Lord. And the third is known as padya, that is washing the feet of the Lord. And then the next one, the fourth, is known as argya, that is an auspicious offering to the Lord. And then the next is known as achman, sipping water for purification. Like we do achman for purification, so we offer achman to the Lord.
So what is Argya exactly?
Argya, that is a special offering. Traditionally, it was whenever great personality used to come, then after welcoming him and washing his feet, then something would be offered. Like on a plate, some cloth, and then some gold coins, or some grains, some fruits. But in the simple worship in the temple, it is a special offering with, actually it is a combination of some milk, and then it has some yogurt, little yogurt, and it has jom, that is barley corn, and it has some rice, and white sesame seeds, and some flower petals, and of course tulsi leaf is there, and that is offered to the Lord above the head or in the hand.
Is that the Madhu Parka?
No, that is not Madhu Parka. That is Arga, that is different.
Okay.
Then comes Achman, that is water for, sipping water for purification. And then comes Madhu Parka, that is a special sweet drink. Madhu, as we know, means honey. So that is made with honey, and then milk is mixed with that. And then a little yogurt is added, and